heirs. Her second marriage made Jean the most powerful woman in the north of Scotland, and her decisions had implications which fed into the complex relationships between the earls, the clan chiefs and their clans, into much later events such as the Highland clearances, and on into contemporary debates over land ownership and reform. Jean's lifetime corresponded with a change in the position of the clans as they began to be seen more and more as the other to the earls. This book is not a retelling of stories from the time of Mary, Queen of Scots, so much as a reframing. By shifting the focus to the north of Scotland and by looking more closely at Jean and her family links, different things become important and different things become clear. For example, Jean's relationship with Bothwell's sister, Janet Hepburn, did not end with Jean's divorce from Bothwell. If historians think of Janet Hepburn at all, it is in relation to the parties and dancing that Mary's court was known for. But Janet and Jean were part of a wider Highland border alliance at a crucial point in Mary, Queen of Scots' lifetime, an alliance that took the edges of Scotland and brought them into the heart of the court. Janet Hepburn's second marriage kept her and Jean in contact for years after Bothwell's death. Women's roles and relationships to each other changed power dynamics. Jean's decisions as a businesswoman with interests in salt pans and coal mining, and her relationship and conflict with her daughter-in-law over these businesses, had a huge impact on the north of Scotland. Meanwhile, other major events, such as the scandalous poisoning of Jean's father and mother-in-law, happened in the north while the nobles in Scotland were distracted by the events at Mary's court, and historians have continued to be distracted. The far north, where Jean latterly lived, is not just a geographical description but a specific area which had particular characteristics, particular relations between earls and clans, for example, that set it apart from other areas of the country. Jean's story is a series of vivid tales that are sometimes unfamiliar, but as memorable as anything that happened with Mary, Queen of Scots, and Darnley. The trial of the corpse of Jean's father in the Scottish Parliament. Jean appearing after her wedding day to Bothwell dressed in mourning for her lost love. Wicked Earl George bursting onto the scene as he shot his father's jailer dead at a football match. The characters are hugely memorable, from Jean's eldest daughter Jane married to the Chief of Mackay as part of the great battle for power between the earls and the clans, to Jean's clever son Robert, the intelligent and urbane courtier, or Robert's brother, playmate and polar opposite, Alexander, Knight of Naverdale, or their enemy, wicked Earl George. The stories and the characters held my interest. The reframing changed the way I see the history of my home. Jean's story is simultaneously long ago and within touching distance. The 16th century is the early modern period, recognizable to us. Jean's time saw the increase in the use of weaponry such as guns and gunpowder, and the questioning of religion. As I wrote about the Battle of Glenlivet, a friend told me that he was refurbishing a sword which had been used to fight at that battle. He could touch history with his hands and see the marks on the blade where it was used to hack at the armour Jean's enemies were wearing. Having absorbed the prevailing wisdom about Jean's first husband Bothwell's guilt, reading the partisan biography of Bothwell by Robert Gore Brown was a jolt, a lesson in reframing history. It was a reminder that history is written by the victors, and that truth, the daughter of time, can be searched for. We can only view history from our present time. I am interested in why people still care about whether or not Jean's first husband Bothwell was guilty, and the fight for the repatriation of his mummified corpse to Scotland. I am curious about why the singer in a Faroese heavy metal band today cares about the mercenaries who went to Europe from Jean's home in Sutherland and nearby Caithness. These stories are all in my narrative, as well as the story of Jean and her family. It was important to me, however, to try to find the truth as well as the stories. There are, of course, many valuable and informative secondary sources available that mention Jean, especially her time with Mary, Queen of Scots, but there are also several letters written in her own hand.